Well, another year, another music conference.
Another day,
another
pretty much
day,
for
yeah.
us.
Another move to another room, another music conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you found this one personally?
It's been good. I mean, it's definitely a lot more people, and I think as with all these events, they're going to grow and become their thing, and I think it's starting to have a real identity as Face the Music, and I think the engagement from the Australian national speakers are talking about it as an event that they are wanting to be part of, and certainly as the speakers and as mentors, but at the same time it gives them an opportunity to, you know, connect with each other again, which is always good.
Yeah. One thing that I know Sounds Australia have been working on, obviously, was the little foray through India a couple of weeks ago. Was that as good as it sounds?
It was actually beyond. Like, we've probably been working on it for 10 months, and I think it was the biggest learning curve I've ever had, I think, professionally. Really different cultural, I guess, senses of urgency in terms of setting up shows. But from the bands, the 5 artists, Carnival, Ginger Safari, Ashton Shuffle, Shepherd and Big Scary, I think every single one of them just got really different things out of it. The Indian audiences engaged like we really didn't expect. And the opportunity to do it through the cultural diplomacy efforts of Ozfest was such a good model that I think we'll start to mimic that in other emerging markets certainly, but other territories. So. We couldn't be happier. I think from all areas it was a big plus. So.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a big market, and obviously in the panel this morning, that whole Southeast Asia is burgeoning. One of the things that I really took out being in Sydney from Simon Crean's speech was the mention of the National Cultural Policy.
Yes.
Have you seen bits of this that no one else has seen? Has anyone seen any of it?
I haven't seen it. I have faith, and I think more so than ever that, you know, it is all on the right track. I guess that world requires timing and delicacies for a whole host of political reasons that I don't even attempt to wrap my head around. I think what we can take away though is the fact that the minister chose to come to India throughout a 3-month festival where there was a lot of arts activity, and he chose to be part of the music component. He spoke as the keynote at that conference. I think to me sends really big signals that contemporary music is on the radar, and I think we're going to find hopefully some genuine support throughout the cultural policy. So, you know, it is a bit of a wait and see, and it's always the case, but it's, you know, it's slowly, and, you know, these are things that many people and organisations and associations have been working on for years, and so a few more months to me is like, what's the difference? And, you know, but I think there's elements that we are tangibly seeing that we haven't seen today, and certainly the May budget announcement for Sounds Australia with 1.7 million coming over the next 4 years is incredible and really significant in terms of what we're attempting to do. So I'm hopeful that it'll be soon, and I think hopefully a lot of that will you know, just reiterate all the things we've been wanting to do. Yeah,
I guess that'd almost be a framework that hopefully it'll just come in and sit on top of.
And I'd like to think that certainly the Contemporary Music Working Group with AMIN and APRA AMCOS, ARIA, the PPCA, like all those key bodies for a very long time have had this dialogue, and you'd like to think that there's no reinventing the wheel from government and from the bureaucrats. You'd like to think they've really listened to the sector, and I think there's a reflection of that. I know just last week they announced the 20 million for the gaming industry. You know, the minister's been out there rapping. I think these are all really good signs. And, you know, when you look at other countries, we're really blessed with Sounds Australia to see how other governments work and how they engage. And, you know, you often get the grass is always greener, but right now I don't think it gets greener than our grass, and I think the support we've got at a federal and state level is really terrific. So,
I guess just finally, going back to that panel that was this morning, there's some really interesting discussions about, you know, the reciprocal tours, I tour you, you tour me, that sort of thing. Do you think anything will come out of that in China? I mean,
look, I honestly do, and I think it's the same principles apply as an artist, you know, getting out of Geelong and then trying to get into Melbourne City, and from Melbourne City they want to do some touring interstate, and interstate nationally, exactly the same mechanics work universally, and we're seeing that more and more so. And you can have all the industry in the world, you can have agents and promoters and venues, unless these bands get on and unless the bands want to tour together and collaborate, that's the real connection. And I think by creating platforms where they get the opportunity to meet It's going to happen naturally. You know, we're starting to see even the acts going to South by and the Great Escape, meeting with artists from other countries, and they'll find their own cues. And it's just about setting the platforms and giving them the capacity to meet. But I think it'll happen.
In places like Asia, do you need those sort of strategically planted, say, Australian industry type people that can work through, say, language barriers and that sort of thing, that throw another spanner in the works?
Look, I think it's essential, but I also think, you know, we are lucky that English is, you know, for us, in most countries it is going to be one of the second languages, and a lot of them speak English incredibly well. And I think if they're operating in that world, and certainly if they're running a festival, they're dealing with a lot of countries, and so it's almost expected that they will, you know, from their own point of view, they're going to want to attempt to, if they want to engage with Australians. You know, you don't want to assume it all, and I think it's important that we're mindful of that and take into consideration, do we bring an interpreter with us? Do we look to, as you said, find people like Tom on the ground that can work? And the great thing about Australia is we've got people in every country. You know, people want to travel and they've got skill sets that we can access that aren't necessarily music people, and certainly through DFAT and Foreign Affairs, all the High Commissions, consulates, I'm sure that side of it we could easily hook up.